Come on in, welcome to my home. It's time for the May bullet journal setup. I know, it's hard to believe. We are going to look at my April bullet journal, see how that's going so far, and then set up my May bullet journal. May is going to be just slightly different from April, and I'll explain it as I set it up. The first thing we need to do is look at the April bullet journal. Let's jump into the overhead. Alright, let's start with our April cover page. Here we are at the April cover page, and you can see it's just like it was. As I've said repeatedly, I usually only use this to find where April starts. First week, not a whole lot happened, and this is where this week's and this month's journal becomes really interesting. Because at the beginning of the month was when everything sort of started, and I really wasn't as you can see, wasn't doing too much on those days, and I really just used this to keep track of what was going on. Now when we get into the first full week of April, this is when I started realizing that I really needed to use this because it helped me keep track of what I should be doing. It helped me keep some normal life going on here, and I really love this whole setup where I could then just put in the days and check off what I needed to be done. Now I did find, as you can see from this page and this page, these are a little big. I don't need that much space. Weekends, I don't do much of anything on the weekends. I loved the cleaning tracker. I can clean on whatever day. Of course, I still stuck with Tuesday, but I can clean and disinfect on whatever day. And at the time, I still was taking my temperature. I still am. I do not need to now, but still doing that, and you can see all the things which I do. Then we have more of the same. We are actually on, today is the 20th of April, and once again, still have the extra room, which I do not need. And then the water tracker, which is down here, that can be changed up just a little bit. We'll see. You'll see what I'm going to do with that. This stays the same. And for this week, where we are today, right here, I'm recording you guys, bullet journal. I'll have to edit and upload you. And everything else is just exactly the same. I really do like this setup. And believe it or not, the next week ends. I know, it's hard to believe that it ends that quickly. This gave me a perfect room for my exercise area. I did change up some of the exercises that I did, but it's a great setup, and I really do like this setup. Now let's go to the important one, which is so strange. I did do the mood tracker, and you want to know something? I actually do not use this whatsoever. While it's turning out what I consider fairly pretty and everything, it's just not one of those things that I really refer to or anything, because realistically, as you can see, my mood pretty much stayed the same because, there's not a whole lot going on. So now we're going to get ready to set up for May. Okay, so that's the quick look at April. April, of course, isn't over. But you can see that I didn't do a whole lot with April because, of course, we're still in lockdown. Lockdown's still happening. I am enjoying this whole setup, but I know I can tweak it just a little bit, and I'm not changing too much of the colors, too much of the theme, simply because I still want to keep things fairly simple, fairly easy, and fairly straightforward. So I'll probably keep the same color scheme with the yellow just to keep it happy and light. I know that in June the color scheme will totally change, but you're not going to get to see that until later. But right now, we're going to go into the overhead and the fast forward, or the speed version of this. I'll explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but you'll see the little tweaks, you'll see the little things, but let's get into it. Let's start with our monthly calendar. Now I'm going to do the monthly calendar on this page, which is right next to my April mood journal, or mood tracker, simply because I didn't want to start on a whole new page. I do know how many pages that this total setup is going to take, and it's not going to take as many pages as I had originally thought it might. So by starting on this page, it does make a lot more sense. Now, I will tell you this right from the get-go, is using the Sharpie on this was not a good idea. You will see that coming up very soon. But right now we are putting in the dates and in the month. While this is a simple layout, and the reason I did this as a super simple layout is because I didn't want to add any extra stress to my whole life, because I mean, we've all got enough stress going on in our lives right now. And I know that the change up is actually going to happen in June. So I'm going to do my weekly layout, and this first weekly layout is the part of the end of the April week. That makes sense, yes. It is the last few days of April, and then it will be the first few days of May. So I already have the last few days of April in April. And then we're just going to go for, what is that, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I did do a slightly blended thing, and I keep making the same mistake. The same mistake is putting the line all the way across on the grid. You'll notice it because what I do is this is a one-page, simple, it's a one-page setup for the weekly, where I have less space for my events and then more for the tracker. And once I realized that I had put this in there, well, it happens. So now I'm putting in my dates so that way I can do the task. I white out where the problem is with this, and then I realize that, hey, guess what? I'm going to put my hand right on top of the whiteout. I write in the dates, then I go back and I color in that gradient. And up in the corner, I then do a little highlight, do a little gradient highlight. This is my exercise tracker. Do like the exercise tracker being there, but I had a problem with the original way I set it up, simply because it was hard to follow across. But we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that in just a minute. I make sure that I get all of my exercises in on this, simply because I don't want to miss a date, and I try to condense it in such a way that it works out well. I do like setting this up so I have less wasted space, and this does give me way less wasted space. Now, I very easily could have done a different style of font up there, and I wish that I would have, because this is not my favorite style of font, but hey, it's okay. I mean, like, this layout it's relaxed. It's going to be a relaxed layout, because I just don't want to add the extra stress into my life to do that right now. Because, well, I mean, let's face it, we are all under lots of stress, so let's try to keep our lives as easy as can be, and this will give me what I want. And what I need is to have the trackers for everything. Making sure that I get all the stuff done, because I did find that having all of the stuff laid out in front of me made sure that I was actually doing what I needed to do when I needed to do it. So there was never that whole, what day is this? When should I be doing this? When should this be happening? And once again, you're going to see the whiteout show up quite a bit on this layout. There is lots of bleed through with the Sharpie. I don't use the Sharpie again, but yeah, there was lots of bleed through, and I'm super not happy about that. And I kept wondering, well, why did I notice this before? And that's because I didn't use the Sharpie before. This time I thought, well, I'll just use the Sharpie, and that was a mistake. Now you can see where I'm putting in the highlighter so that I can make sure that I know which days of the week it is. It's so much simpler now. Now we are on to our second full week, the full week. This one gets really interesting because if you from the other videos, you saw the way that it was set up, and it was set up so I repeat a lot of things week after week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out so I can write across the whole page, and we'll talk about this more when we do the final flip through of this, but I can write across the whole page and have to write things less. It just will work out, I hope, a whole lot better. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, here we are making sure that everything is in there perfectly. And I think it is. I'm pretty certain that it's in there the way it should be. But I do like this layout. I really do like the way it is set up and all of those things, because it gives me all the extra room. The header, once again, I'm putting that in there. And the reason I'm putting that in there right now is because I was trying to keep from getting all the ink from all the black ink from mixing in with the yellow. It still mixes in, but does not mix in as bad. Then we put in our dates. And from there, we are actually putting in like lots and lots of the days of the week. And then I'm going to do my gradient, which I do like, not the greatest, but for what it needs to do, it does do pretty well. How I did the gradient was I just went over the base color many, many times at the bottom, and then the middle I just did once, and that gives you sort of that gradient look to it. And you'll see me just, as I lightly just go down in the center one time, so it gives that sort of faded out look. Then I'm going to put in my day markers, I guess you'd call that, and that really does help, I found, from this week. Now we are going to go in and do I know, this is what's really cool about this one, is that this one goes so fast. I love the fact that I could set this up because I really wanted something super easy. I don't know what all is going to happen in May, because the way things are going, they are changing everything up right now. So we don't know what all is going to happen. So I'm just setting this up so that I can be prepared to have it not as stressful. And that's what we want. We want things that are not stressful. Now I'm going to put in my days of the week for my task. And when I get to this, I will explain how everything is going to work. It will totally make sense. But this is just showing you how it's laid out. Now, I am putting in a brain dump simply because I did need that this time. And normally I don't put in a brain dump because, there's really no reason for me to put in a brain dump most of the time because I don't use it. But I've come up with a lot of ideas since I am home a lot more. And I need a place to write those down. I do like the gradient of that so that it fades out to that lighter yellow. I am going to get some other markers so that they blend out for my next month's bullet journal, because I have that all ready to go. Once again, using that whiteout because, well, you know how things go. Now I'm going to try to put in a highlight on the letters. In the video, it's hard to see that the letters do get a slight white highlight on them, and it's very, very slight, but it is there. I do like it, but like I said, in the video, it is super, super duper hard to see, but it does give the letters just a slight, nice way of doing this. And the other reason that I did this as simple as this is because I wanted to make sure that people realize that you don't need any fancy equipment whatsoever to do this. Now I'm going to erase everything. I want to make sure that everything is erased, everything is out of the way, cleaned it up. I used my brush to brush off all of the little eraser droppings, I guess you'd call that, and then we're ready to do our final flip through. It's all drawn in. It's all erased. Now we can do our flip through to see how well I like it, how well you like it. And like I said, it's not perfect, but you'll see that. It'll show up when we do the flip through. Starting with our cover page. Once again, I wanted to tie these two together with the colors, because you notice these are the same colors with that gradient. I really do like that gradient there. Just simple calendar. Now, let's talk about this. Yes, the bleeding is bad. The bleed through is bad. However, the thing that I was going to go and correct all of this and take care of all those problems. But as we know from all of my past weeks of bullet journaling, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which are the only 3 days for this task, I don't really do anything on any of those days, like any of them. So that is fine. Now my exercise setup, do like that simply because now I can make sure that I get the right days in there, because if we go back to this one, you notice how it sort of slides over in April this way, I have it all marked off there. And I have the weeks marked off there. So that is okay. I'm not real thrilled with this font, with this font at the top. However, it's not bad for an attempt to try on this one. Make sure that when you do your bullet journal, you are doing what works for you. Week 19, this one, once again, it is my rolling to-do list, which I absolutely love. I'll put the event. Now let's talk about these little boxes up here. What's going to happen is if I drink 1 glass of water, I would put in, if I drink 2 glasses of water, X, 1 slash. The 3 and 4, slash up, slash down for 5 and 6. Then 7 and 8 is a cross. So basically you're going to end up with like a star pattern or an asterisk in there for each day, and that's why that is there. Now this is the one which might not make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so everything stays the same, but in the center, I do a lot of the things where like I'll have, do the dishes, water the dog, that sort of thing. So I will write those all the way across here so that way they are on both sides. I only have to write it once and I can just put in when I want this done. If there's something which will appear on either the week 21 or this week, I can then just, put it where it needs to go. That will take up less room. I can write across here. It's not going to be a problem whatsoever. I do really, really like that. And I actually like the way it looks. We'll see how in practice this works, but I really do like this. Now, week 22, 25, I'm jumping ahead. Week 22 is set up just the same. And like I said, there are the mistakes in here, and nothing that I do in these bullet journals is absolutely perfect. That is absolutely perfectly fine to not have it perfect, because this is the bullet journal that I really do use, and everybody needs to work their bullet journal the best that they can for what they do. I really think I'm going to love this even with this. So don't feel bad if you have a page which looks like this and there's bleed through and everything's not perfect. It's okay. There's nothing in this world that says the bullet journal has to be perfect. What it says is the bullet journal has to work for you. Does your bullet journal work for you? My bullet journal works for me. In fact, one of the things which I can say really strongly is my bullet journal works so well for April. That's why I didn't change too much up for May, since I don't know what's going to happen. I left it pretty much the same. It really did help me keep from going into that whole spiral of I don't know what day it is, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, what things need to be done, and just becoming a couch potato. Instead, I could check things off, and checking things off became great, making sure that I put everything down there. My life kept organized simply because of my bullet journal. And instead of messing with it and changing it up for May, I left it alone because it worked in April. I don't know what's happening in May, and I'm repeating myself a lot, but it worked. It worked really well. Even though this is not one of my favorite bullet journal layouts or bullet journal drawings, I guess you would say, it will work, and I know it will work. And it's going to be important because even as I was doing this, I was having a hard time concentrating, making sure that things worked out the way that they were, and I know that that has a lot to do with the stress that we're all under right now. But it is done, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. You'll get to see. You can follow me on my social media and see how well I keep up with it. And I hope I get to see you next time, and you can check out these other videos that I picked out just for you.